China's so-called economic miracle is cracking in real time. On paper, growth still reads 4.8%, malls still shine, and homes once only rose. But walk the streets. Stores are empty. Job listings vanish, and prices fall every month. Evergrande sinks under $300 billion. 65 million apartments sit dark, and local governments sell toll roads just to pay staff. Behind the charts, 60 trillion yuan of hidden debt keeps the system breathing through borrowed air. The miracle didn't collapse overnight. It's quickly bleeding out, and the shock won't stop at China's border. So let's talk about that. You see, China's economic miracle is unraveling right now.
Poorer areas of China are never going to be able to support them.
Even as Beijing still claims 4.8% of growth, for decades the world watched the country rise from farmland to skyscrapers and assumed the momentum could never end. But beneath those glowing GDP charts, the gears have started grinding. Factories are slowing, housing prices are tumbling, and investors who once begged to get in are quietly running for the exits. You've probably seen the headlines.
As the poster child for deflation, this huge sort of bubble in stock market and real estate burst. Subsequent to that, the economy slowed down.
Record exports, record reserves, but step inside any major city and the story flips. Malls are half empty, job listings vanish overnight, and even government data now shows youth unemployment's near 19%. The truth is, the miracle still exists, only on paper. China's growth engine has become a machine that burns its own fuel just to keep the lights on. Here's the part that shocks even economists. Prices are falling across the board, not just in real estate, but food, cars, electronics, everything. That's deflation and the silent killer of confidence. It means people stop buying because they expect things to get cheaper tomorrow. Once that mindset takes hold of an economy, it stalls, no matter how much money the government prints. Sounds crazy, right? But the world's second largest economy is now facing exactly that. Officials try to mask the pain. State TV shows full construction sites, yet half of those projects are ghost towers, started years ago and never finished. Local banks roll old loans into new ones, and so the defaults don't show. And those glowing GDP numbers? They're propped up government spending that adds debt, faster than it adds real growth. The numbers are staggering. Total investment up and returns down. Productivity flat. That's not expansion, that's survival. So why would you care? Well, because this isn't just China's problem actually. When the world's biggest manufacturer slows, every supply chain bends with it. The next time your phone costs more, or shipping delays hit months instead of weeks, remember, it starts here, in an economy pretending it's still booming. And if that illusion cracks, well, the first domino to fall is property, the foundation of China's miracle and the source of its greatest risk. Evergrande's collapse wasn't the disaster. It was the signal. For years, China built its miracle on cement and speculation. Property wasn't a sector, it was the bloodstream, and by 2020, housing and construction drove almost 30% of GDP, twice America's level. Whole provinces lived off land sales and tower cranes. But by 2025, the gears seized. Apartments stopped selling, projects froze, and behind the skyline, a hidden debt machine began to choke. Here's what nobody told you. Every apartment you saw rising was financed 3 times over. Developers borrowed from banks, who borrowed from trust firms, who borrowed from households, chasing safe 8% returns. The same yuan was recycled across the chain, inflated by paper profits. When sales percent stalled, the cash loop snapped. One missed payment turned into a cascade. Evergrande owed $300 billion. Country Garden another $200 billion. Zhongliang, Kaisa, Sunak. The dominoes kept falling. Ghost cities spread like scars across the map. Orders, Kunming, Tianjin, entire districts of glass towers where nobody lives. Local officials once bragged about these projects. Now they pray investors don't look too closely. More than 65 million apartments sit empty, enough to house France. But the real shock isn't vacancy. It's who financed it. Retirees, small business owners, families who poured life savings into pre-sale condos that never got finished. Then came the cover-ups. Banks extended and pretended, rolling bad loans into new ones so the default ones wouldn't appear. City governments faked land auctions by bidding against themselves. Some even sold land to their own investment arms to raise fake revenue. That's not capitalism, that's a shell game. You'd think Beijing would step in hard. Instead, it tried band-aids, rate cuts, tax breaks, even moral appeals. State media urged citizens to buy confidence. Yet, sales fell another 25% this year. Prices dropped in over 60 cities. Middle-class wealth evaporated, and illusions of security went with it. When homes lose value, people stop spending. When they stop spending, the whole consumption engine freezes. Wait until you hear this. Provinces are now so cash-starved that they're delaying teacher salaries, cutting healthcare budgets, and selling toll road rights to private funds just to raise cash. The government calls these revenue innovations. In truth, it's desperation. Every yuan once earned from the sales must now be borrowed. And that's the breaking point. Because when local budgets implode, their debt doesn't vanish. It moves. Beijing absorbs it, repackages it, and buries it inside new refinancing plans. What began as a property bust has become a national debt transfer. This matters because the crash isn't over. It's just changed shape. The next phase is quieter, deeper, and far more dangerous. The hidden web of loans tying provinces to bankrupt developers. That's the story we're going to be tackling next. The property bust didn't explode. It morphed. When Evergrande, Country Garden, and Sunac failed, Beijing blocked open defaults. It shifted the wreckage into local government financing vehicles, or LGFVs. They look like builders. They act like banks. They're really debt sponges. By 2025, more than 3,000 LGFVs held over 60 trillion yuan in debt, about half of GDP. Many did not build anything new. They bought half-finished towers so banks could pretend loans were fine. On paper, default was low, and in life, the losses stayed. Here's the twist. The debt's loop. LGFVs borrow from state banks, get backed by provinces, then issue new bonds to pay the old ones. Other LGFVs buy those bonds. The circle feeds itself. Miss one payment and fear jumps from county to county overnight. The scale is brutal. Guizhou alone carries near 1.2 trillion yuan more than its yearly output. Yunnan, Hunan, and Heilongjiang strain under piles they can't service. Some pledge toll roads, parks, even schools as collateral. Others tap rural banks for short loans to meet payroll. Beijing knows the sums won't clear, so it plays for time. In 2024, it pushed a 6 trillion yuan swap, turning hidden loans into official bonds. The label was de-risking. The effect was nationalization. Private busts became public burdens, and the debt moved upstairs, not away. Here's what that means for you, though. Debt migration kills reform. If the state holds the losses, no one wants to admit them. Local bosses expect rescue. Bankers delay write-downs. Projects limp on, soaking up cash that should go to jobs, tech, and real income. The market senses the truth, and foreign funds flee. Bond spreads widen. Confidence, the one thing Beijing can't print, thins out. Households save more and spend less. Prices fall, factories cut hours. Exports slip, even with discounts. That's deflation creeping in through every side door. Sound distant? It hits you at home, surprised or not, actually. Supply shocks get sharper. Delivery times, they get stretched. Replacement parts, they start costing more. Your index fund gets more China risk than you might think. The world built lean chains on China's scale. When that scale jams, the bill lands on your desk. Here's the bottom line, though. The crash didn't end. It moved into the walls. The longer the state hides it, the slower growth gets, and the colder prices turn. That's the setup for Section 4. Deflation, trade, blowback, and a chill rolling across the wind. One more layer nobody wants to touch, though, is that LGFVs also hold mountains of land meant for sale, but buyers apparently vanished. Land sale revenue, once over 8 trillion yuan a year, plunged. With that cash gone, cities can't fund subways, clinics, or pension gaps. So, now, they create new vehicles to buy the land from the old vehicles. It's the same pocket, different jacket. Auditors track assets that don't earn cash. Citizens see stalled stations and dark clinics. Trust breaks and growth breaks with it. Investors aren't blind. Stock buybacks ordered by the state lifted prices for a week, then fizzled. Capital controls slowed outflows, but didn't stop them. Multinationals reroute orders to Vietnam, India, and Mexico. The message is simple. Debt without profit is rot, and rot spreads. It touches prices far beyond China today. So now let's talk about this great chill and deflation and isolation here. So, deflation isn't a soft landing. It's economic frostbite. You see, China's consumer prices are now falling month after month. Factories cut hours, stores discount goods, and families save every spare yuan. On TV, officials call it stabilization. On the ground, it feels like winter with no end. When prices fall and confidence dies, money stops moving. The miracle turns into a freeze. You can see it in the data. Producer prices have dropped for over 2 years straight. Steel mills sell below cost. Solar firms dump panels at losses so deep they bankrupt rivals abroad. Car companies slash sticker prices weekly, and still the lots fill up. In any normal economy, that's collapse. In China, it's denial dressed as output. The world's biggest exporter is now exporting deflation. Cheap goods, cheaper wages, and the illusion of control. Now hold on a second. Beijing's rescue tools don't work anymore? Rate cuts don't make people borrow? Liquidity injections sit idle in state banks? You know, consumers remember the housing wipeout and hoard cash. They've watched neighbors lose apartments, jobs, and faith. No one trusts official numbers, and without trust, guess what? Stimulus dies on contact. The government tries propaganda before policy. State TV calls falling prices a temporary rebalancing. Newspapers praise resilient demand, but local officials know the math. Lower prices mean lower tax revenue, weaker budgets, and shrinking leverage over debt-swamped provinces. The central bank whispers that deflation is manageable. Behind closed doors, it's panic movement, obviously. And outside China, the shock is spreading. Factories in Vietnam and India suddenly face Chinese deflation into global markets. Every dollar of falling Chinese prices drags foreign profits down. Investors retreat, markets chitter, and trade blocs harden their borders. The global system that depended on Chinese growth is now defending itself against Chinese contradiction. Now layer geopolitics on top. The US and EU are slapping tariffs on steel, EVs, and solar panels. Multinationals accelerate their exits. Apple to India, Nike to Vietnam, auto suppliers to Mexico. Supply chains that once wrapped around China now route around it. Foreign direct investment is down 25% year over year, the sharpest fall since the records began. China isn't the factory of the world anymore. It's the risk nobody wants on their balance sheet. Here's the bigger danger. Deflation isn't just economic. It's political. Falling prices crush revenue, erode loyalty, and strip Beijing of the cash it uses to buy stability. A government that once bought obedience with growth can't afford the same silence in contraction. Every closed factory, every unpaid worker chips at control. Why it matters to you? Because when China's engine stalls, the shock hits everyone. The next shipping delay, the next inflation spike, the next market slide. They all trace back to this chill spreading from Beijing outward. The world once feared China's rise. The new fear is its fall, and the vacuum it leaves behind. And the reason the recovery may never come back is because the people are disappearing. The demographic collapse has already begun, and it's the one crisis no bailouts can stop. Every empire believes it can outgrow decline. China's leaders still talk about recovery, but the numbers tell a story they can't fix. The population is shrinking faster than anyone expected. In 2023, deaths outnumbered births for the first time in 60 years. By 2030, China could lose 70 million working-age citizens, roughly the population of France. You can't stimulate babies with interest rates. For decades, cheap labor powered China's miracle. Now, factories can't find workers under 40. The average assembly line employee is almost 42 years old. Fewer young people means fewer buyers, fewer taxpayers, and fewer dreamers willing to risk opening a business. The country built for infinite expansion is running out of humans to fill it. Here's where it turns from slowdown to structural collapse. Fewer workers mean higher costs. Fewer marriages mean fewer homes. Fewer births mean fewer consumers. And every engine that once multiplied growth now reverses it. The property crisis, the debt crisis, and the deflation spiral all tie back to one brutal truth. China is aging before it ever got rich. You've probably seen the headlines about family incentives, cash bonuses, housing subsidies, paid leave. None of them move the needle. Couples don't want more children because the economy feels unsafe, wages stagnate, job security fades, and social pressure rises. When people see the future shrinking, they stop investing in it. That's why demographic decline really means not just fewer people but fewer homes. The government tries to mask the rot with technology and nationalism. State media shows AI labs and rocket launches, promising a high-tech rebound. But the math doesn't care about propaganda. Productivity is failing. Innovation can't outrun the drag of aging workers, bad debt, and lost trust. The truth is, China isn't entering a new cycle. It's entering managed decline. Wait until you hear this. In some rural countries, entire schools have closed for lack of students. Marriage registrations hit their lowest point since records began. Even military recruitment is slipping. The human base that built the miracle is vanishing in real time. And why does this matter? Because it isn't just China's story. It's global gravity. The world's supply chain, its pricing power, its inflation cycle, all the orbit Chinese economy. When that center weakens, balance everywhere starts to shake. For 30 years, China was the growth engine of the planet. Now it's becoming the drag. And that's the point no one in Beijing wants to admit. The recovery is coming. It didn't crash overnight. It's just quietly running out of time. So China's miracle didn't explode. It just faded. But the ripple hasn't stopped. And what comes next will hit closer than you think. If you found this breakdown sharp and real, don't stop here. Watch the next video too. So I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.